Hello, recruit, and welcome to Astroneer Academy 201, Vehicles and Navigation, and welcome to the second semester of Astroneer Academy. In the next 6 videos, we will be taking all of the foundational knowledge that you learned from the first semester and applying it to completing your mission as an astroneer and obtaining some achievements. There are 2 primary types of vehicles available to an astroneer: land and space travel. Though today we're only going to be looking at land vehicles. While you can certainly make quite a bit of progress on foot, land vehicles allow you to do things quicker and more conveniently. Many of them can also be equipped with drills and other augments to give them additional capabilities. All vehicles have a few common characteristics. They will all supply an unlimited amount of oxygen to an astroneer. As long as you remain near the vehicle, you'll tether to that vehicle and receive oxygen. Likewise, you will also receive power to recharge your backpack if you are tethered to a vehicle that has power. You cannot, however, use vehicles to create a tethered network for oxygen unless you also have an oxygenator attached to the vehicle. All land vehicles will require a power source, though most do have internal batteries that can store a limited amount of power. Those batteries have no power stored when you create the vehicle, however. We're going to look at most of the land vehicles in order of their byte cost, but first we're going to begin by discussing the buggy. The buggy has a research cost of 1,500 bytes and is crafted on the medium printer from 1 compound and 1 aluminum. It requires 1 additional object before you can drive it though, the rover seat. You begin with the rover seat already unlocked in the research catalog, so you do not need to spend any bytes for it. You can craft the rover seat on the small printer using 2 compound. Once unpackaged, the rover seat is a tier 2 item that fits perfectly on that one single tier 2 item slot on the buggy itself. Unlike other vehicles that we'll discuss today, the buggy does not have a power cable. So in order to charge its internal battery, you will need to connect a power source to one of its 2 available tier 1 slots. The buggy can only store a total of 4 units of power, so any tier 1 power item will be able to quickly charge the buggy's battery. Once charged, the buggy will consume power at a rate of 0.031 units per second, making it by far the most power efficient vehicle available. You can drive the buggy from its internal battery for roughly 130 seconds. The buggy is also unique among other vehicles because it doesn't really feature much in the way of storage. As we already discussed, the single tier 2 slot on the buggy has to be occupied by a rover seat in order for you to be able to drive the buggy. That leaves you with only 2 tier 1 slots. You're most likely going to want to keep a power producer attached to one of those 2 slots, but what the buggy lacks in terms of storage, it more than makes up for in terms of speed. It is one of the most capable vehicles for navigating difficult terrain. It is highly maneuverable and offers plenty of torque, meaning that it can easily climb up and over most terrain, even nearly vertical walls. All of this makes the buggy an excellent exploration vehicle, allowing you to cover large distances in a very short time while consuming very little energy. In fact, the buggy is the only vehicle in the scout category type, with all the other land vehicles falling into the rover category. Given the classification of a scout vehicle, the buggy was clearly designed for exploring, adventure, and discovery. It also makes a great vehicle for recreational pursuits, which we'll discuss further in Astroneer Academy 303. The 2 tier 1 slots on a buggy do function much like widget slots on a backpack, meaning that they can be toggled independently by either C or V on a keyboard or shoulder buttons on a controller. So you can equip a buggy with a generator in one slot, and then just toggle it on for short bursts to recharge the battery, and maybe a work light in the other slot, toggling it on during night or when exploring dark caves. The tractor is the least expensive vehicle in terms of bytes, requiring only 1,000 bytes to unlock in the research catalog. You craft the tractor on a small printer using 2 aluminum stacks. With its low byte and research costs, this is typically the first vehicle that many astroneers make use of. Like the buggy, the tractor stores 4 units of power, though it is not as energy efficient as the buggy. The tractor consumes power at a rate of 0.7 units per second. This means that the tractor can be driven for roughly 57 seconds when fully powered, if no external power source is connected. The tractor does come equipped with a tier 2 attachment slot on the front and a power cable at the rear. So you can either plug it into your existing power network to charge its internal batteries, or you can connect a power item to the front attachment slot. While the tractor is not quite as maneuverable as the buggy, it can still be used to drive over some rather difficult terrain. The real utility of the tractor comes into play when you also craft trailers. The trailer requires 1,500 bytes to unlock, and it is created on the small printer using 1 compound and 1 aluminum. The trailer itself does not have any batteries to store power, but it will provide oxygen to an Astroneer like other vehicles do. Each trailer comes equipped with 2 power plugs, with 1 on each end, and 1 Tier 2 storage slot. When connected to the power plug of a tractor, you can connect up to 3 trailers and create your first working rover train. This gives you expanded storage for items and resources that you collect during your adventures. Of course, you can also add Tier 2 size storage to a trailer, and you can review all of those storage options in Astroneer Academy 105. And here's a pro tip from WharfRat, one of the Astroneer Academy advanced Astroneers.
If you are having trouble with power early on, a tractor and trailers can really expand your search area as you search through the debris and wreckage, hoping to find free power to continue developing your base. Just be sure to connect a small generator to your tractor so you can collect organic and keep the tractor powered.
Thanks for that pro tip, WharfRat. A trailer does not necessarily require a tractor in order to be operational. Since the trailer does fall into the rover category of vehicles, it technically doesn't require a tow vehicle. When used on its own, you can connect up to 4 trailers together in a rover train. But there are a few caveats here. Like all of the other land vehicles that we'll be discussing today, if you opt to skip out on the tractor to tow trailers, you're going to need to attach a rover seat to a trailer in order to drive it. Since that rover seat will occupy the entire Tier 2 slot of a trailer, you need at least 1 other trailer to actually get underway. Why? Well, as we discussed earlier, the trailer does not have its own internal battery. That means you need to attach that second trailer and attach a power item to it so that the trailers will have power. Unless you are using some sort of Tier 2 storage option on the second trailer, you're going to have consumed most of the storage space that you had available. Because of this, you really are better off using a tractor to tow 3 trailers, since you're still going to have roughly the same functional storage space. But if you do opt to skip the tractor and just use trailers, you will need to supply an external power source. The trailer consumes 0.25 units per second, so pretty much any power source should suffice. That means, for example, a fully charged small battery will provide roughly 128 seconds of drive time for a trailer rover train. This power consumption remains consistent whether you have 2, 3, or 4 trailers in your rover train. While we are on the topic of creating rover trains, it should be noted that there is a hard limit to how many vehicles can be connected together. You cannot connect more than 4 vehicles together, no matter the combination of vehicle types. If you attempt to connect a 5th vehicle, you'll find that the cable plug simply will not make a connection. Now, there are other ways to tow additional vehicles, specifically through the use of a winch. Doing so begins to cross into advanced astroneering, however, so that's a topic that we'll tackle in Astroneer Academy 401. The medium rover requires 3,750 bytes to unlock, and it is crafted on the medium printer from 2 plastic and 1 rubber. Since this is a rover, you do require a rover seat and power before you can drive it. Each medium rover is equipped with a single Tier 3 slot on top and a power plug along with a Tier 2 storage slot on each end. If you do choose to connect an additional rover, the storage slot on the end where your power cable is connected will flip over and will be unavailable for storage. Additionally, if you connect a power cable from the same end that has anything currently attached to those storage slots, those items will immediately fall off as soon as that storage slot flips over. You can greatly increase the amount of storage available on a medium rover by attaching a large storage or either of the large storage silos to the top of the medium rover. Additionally, attaching a medium storage or a medium storage silo to the front or the rear of a medium rover will also dramatically increase your storage space. No matter the configuration that you choose for the medium rover and any attached storage, be certain to save space for power items. A medium rover's internal battery can store 8 units of power, and the medium rover will consume that power at a rate of 0.5 units per second. That means a fully charged medium rover with no other power connected can only travel for 16 seconds before the power is completely drained. Each medium rover that you connect will have its own internal battery, however, which will extend your range. So for example, if you have 4 medium rovers all connected together, you are now storing a total of 32 units of power, so you would be able to drive for 64 seconds before all of those rover batteries are dead. Before we move on to the next vehicle, I want to give you a word of caution when attaching a rover seat. A rover seat attached to storage on a rover will not allow you to actually drive that rover. Rover seats must always be directly attached to the rover itself. And when it comes to rover seats, direction matters. You can place them anywhere on a rover, even on the front or your storage slots. But if they're facing the wrong direction, you'll find that your driving controls are reversed. So if you jump into a rover and you suddenly find yourself going in the opposite direction than what you expected, just get out of the rover seat, turn it around, and get back in. Things should be fine now. The large rover is the final type of land vehicle available to an Astroneer. It requires 5,000 bytes to unlock in the research catalog, and it is crafted on the large printer using 2 aluminum alloy and 2 rubber. Like the medium rover, the large rover also requires a rover seat in order to be driven. It features one Tier 4 slot on top and a Tier 3 slot and power cable on each end. And just like the medium rover, the slots on the end will flip over if the corresponding power cable is connected to another power plug, making those storage slots unavailable. But still, with all of the storage available, the large rover effectively doubles the amount of storage compared to a medium rover, but that also comes with a greater power cost. The internal battery of a large rover can store 16 units of power, but the large rover consumes that power at a rate of 1 unit per second. And of course, if you've already done the math in your head, then you've already realized that this means you can only drive a fully charged rover for 16 seconds. Though each large rover you connect to a train will add an additional 16 seconds when fully charged, but that still does not provide a whole lot of drive time. If you are planning on making use of a large rover, be sure you have enough power to keep it running. If you wish to transport more than one Astroneer on a vehicle at a time, you can create a large rover seat. It will require 2,000 bytes to unlock in the research catalog, and it's crafted on the medium printer from 1 compound and 2 plastic. With the large rover seat attached, 3 Astroneers can now all ride together. To keep you from arguing over who gets to drive, the first Astroneer to get into the large rover seat assumes the controls. With dedicated servers on the near horizon, multiple large rover seats will allow you to provide a seat for all players in the server. The front attachment slot of the tractor and the front and rear attachment slots on the medium and large rover all allow for controls of various vehicle attachments. When on the tractor, you can use either control key to activate and deactivate a vehicle attachment that's on the front of the tractor. On the medium and large rovers, however, the controls are split apart to control attachments on the front and the rear attachment slots. On keyboard, you control the attachments on the front with C or the left shoulder button on a controller, and for the rear controls, you use V on a keyboard or the right shoulder button on a controller. There are 2 specific types of vehicle attachments that can be controlled in this manner: drills and the paver. Drills come in 3 varieties. Drill Strength 1 requires 2,500 bytes to unlock, and it is crafted on the small printer from 1 ceramic and 1 tungsten carbide. Drill Strength 2 requires 5,000 bytes, and is also crafted on the small printer, but from 1 titanium alloy and 1 tungsten carbide. Drill Strength 3 will cost 7,500 bytes to unlock, and is crafted on the small printer from 1 titanium alloy and 1 diamond. All 3 of these drills will consume power at a rate of 1 unit per second. Keep in mind that this power usage is in addition to the power being used for the vehicle that the drill is attached to, so you definitely want to have plenty of power available when using the drill. The drill allows you to dig into soil, creating tunnels and even ramps down into caves. Each drill strength is able to drill into harder terrain than the previous drill strength. Drills will destroy small decorators that you encounter and will also collect any resources that they dig up. All collected resources will automatically be placed on any available storage on your vehicle. If you don't have any available storage, the resource will simply fall to the ground. But with sufficient storage, a drill attached to a vehicle allows you to collect a large quantity of resources much faster than using a terrain tool. The paver requires 5,000 bytes to unlock in the research catalog, and it's crafted on a small printer from 1 aluminum alloy and 1 silicone. Instead of removing soil like a drill, the paver lays down a layer of black soil. The paver cannot function alone, however, and requires a small or medium canister to supply soil to it. The paver does place soil down at a very rapid rate, so use of the medium canister is recommended. Like the drill attachments, the paver will consume power at a rate of 1 unit per second. So again, be certain that you have ample power for your vehicle and your attachments before you head out from base, or you might find yourself stranded far from home due to a dead battery. The drills and the paver have fairly simple controls for determining their angle of operation. You can easily see a red line indicating how steep of an angle you'll be creating or drilling, and you simply tilt the camera up or down to change the angle. When used together, a drill and a paver can allow you to create a system of roadways across any terrain, and even provide you a safe way to drill deep down into caves. The paver and drills can also be used in conjunction with the crane, but we'll discuss that more in depth in a later course. and it should go without saying, but all other items that can be activated with auxiliary slots can all be controlled when attached to vehicle attachment slots as well. This means you can toggle lights, generators, a camera, and all kinds of other items with the touch of a button without ever leaving the comfort of your vehicle. All of the land vehicles do offer in-air controls to help you nail the perfect landing when you fly off the edge of a cliff or you go flying over the top of a sand dune. Simply use the left thumbstick on a controller or the WASD keys on the keyboard to control the pitch of your vehicle while midair. To switch to yaw control, use those same keys but do so while holding X on an Xbox controller, square on the PS4 controller, or left shift on a keyboard. But look, even if you don't nail the perfect landing and your vehicle does flip over, don't panic. Just wait for the vehicle to come to rest and you'll receive a tooltip letting you know that you can flip the vehicle over by pressing the corresponding key or button. So, now that you have vehicles that can take you all over the surface of the planet, we need to discuss navigation. Every astroneer has found themselves feeling hopelessly lost at some point, fearful that they may never see their home base again. In fact, it's rather appropriate that this course was originally introduced on April Fool's Day, because being lost can feel as though the planet is playing tricks on you. But we're going to take a quick look at how you can avoid that situation. The simplest and the most overlooked option is to use the built-in compass. Simply place the cursor directly over your astroneer and a compass will appear on the ground beneath their feet. When you set out to explore, make note of the direction that you're traveling. When it's time to head back to base, use the compass again to navigate back home. But what if you made several turns to avoid mountains or collect items and resources and you can't really remember which way you were heading? Well, in that case, simply look up. The narrow band of stars that you see in the sky will always lie directly above the equator of whatever planet or moon you are located on. By traveling directly under this band of stars, you should be able to navigate back to your base, eventually. On the starting planet, Silva, your starting base will always be located somewhat north of the equator. So if you're lost, pick a direction, east or west, make a mental note of what side north is on, and then start driving. In no time at all, you'll be home. And here's another pro tip from WharfRat for venturing to a new planet or moon.
Grab a stack of quartz and make a beacon to carry with you. Then select a landing spot as close as possible to the North Pole. The north side of the planet will always be to the right when you are in orbit. When you land, place the beacon on the ground or even on a nearby hilltop. Now, when you're ready to return to your shuttle, you just need to head north from wherever you are. Even if you did not land directly next to the North Pole, as long as you landed somewhere close to it, you should be able to find your way back to your shuttle with ease, because your beacon should be visible from the North Pole itself. This is why, when I build bases on new planets, I always build them directly next to the North Pole, if I plan on doing a lot of exploring.
Thanks for that pro tip, WharfRat. We'll be covering space travel and the various interplanetary destinations in Astroneer Academy 204. Astroneers everywhere have found tons of useful ways to navigate and avoid getting lost. Beacons come in handy quite often. Some people will stop and lay beacons of different colors as they go further from their base, making a note of the order of the colors that they placed. They can then follow those beacons to find their way back. Others might create large columns or even arrows out of soil to serve as landmarks. Some astroneers go as far as to create tether lines to follow back, or they might just simply place tethers in the shape of an arrow to help them find their way. There is no single best way to aid your wayfinding an astroneer. Whatever works for you is going to be your best method. But don't ever forget, the stars are always overhead to help guide you. Or maybe sometimes they're not. Because stars and beacons can quickly become obsolete when you're underground in caves. Again, astroneers have found numerous ways to help them find their way back to a cave entrance. For me personally, if I'm on foot, I always place a tether line that I can follow back out. If I'm in a vehicle, I make sure I have a drill on that vehicle and a paver as well for large rovers, so that I can drill a small road into the cave floor that I can follow back to the cave entrance. And by including the paver on the large rover, I can also pave right over any openings to lower caves without worry of falling in. And that's going to wrap it up for land vehicles and navigation. Be sure to join us in Astroneer Academy 202, where we'll take a look at debris, shredders, scrap, and the trade platform. Until then, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.